morning to our listeners. Today is 6th of May, 2021, and you're listening to the ASU Express Bulletin. Let's start with Paki, who will tell you about the COVID news.
So for today's COVID-19 update, third wave inevitable, says center. 10 facts and centers COVID update. Phase 3 is inevitable given the high levels at which this virus is circulating, but it is not clear at what time scale this will occur. Dr. K. Vijay Raghavan said at the government briefing. Vaccines need to be updated and current surge in infections seems to be because of the Indian double mutant virus and the spread of UK variant slowed. Niti Aayog member and chief of National Expert Group on the vaccines, VK Paul said, if anything more is required, those options are always being discussed. There is already a guideline to states to impose restrictions to suppress the chain of transmission. India accounted for nearly half of the cases reported worldwide last week, WHO said on Wednesday. Daily infections rose by 3.82 lakh on Wednesday. Health Ministry data showed even though testing has slowed in many areas. Hospitals are scrambling for beds and oxygen as they desperately battle the deadly surge in infections, which morgues and crematoriums struggle to deal with seemingly unstoppable flow of bodies. Medical experts say India's actual figures could be 5 to 10 times the official tallies. PM Narendra Modi's government has been widely criticized for not acting sooner to suppress the second wave. The opposition has urged a nationwide lockdown, but the government has appeared reluctant to impose one for the fear of the economic fallout. India's surge in infections has coincided with the dramatic drop in vaccination because of the supply and delivery problems. Thank you. Now let's listen to Surbi what she has to say.
Yeah, thank you, Paki. COVID-19 patients dying due to oxygen shortage is not less than a genocide, Allahabad High Court. Using very strong words, the Allahabad High Court on Tuesday observed that the death of COVID-19 patients just because of the lack of oxygen in hospitals is a criminal act, not less than a genocide by the authorities responsible for ensuring the oxygen supply chain is maintained. The remarks were made based on the several news items and posts doing the rounds on the social media regarding the death of COVID-19 patients due to lack of oxygen in Lucknow and Meerut districts. The court also ordered a probe into the incidents. A two-judge bench comprising Justice Siddharth Verma and Ajit Kumar passed the order on a suo motu public interest litigation on the spread of COVID-19 in the state and the condition of quarantine centers. During the course of the hearing, Advocate Anuj Singh brought court's attention that the court portal listing all COVID-19 hospital beds available was not giving correct information. To confirm this, the bench asked him to call one of the numbers listed and inquire about beds, and it was found that the government data was incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sobi. Continuing with the COVID news, ICMR issues new testing guidelines for COVID-19. Any individual with fever, headache, sore throat, breathlessness, body ache, the recent loss of taste or smell, fatigue, diarrhea should be considered as a suspect case of COVID-19 unless proven otherwise by confirmation of another etiology, the new guideline said. ICMR has recommended no RT-PCR tests if an individual has tested positive by rapid antigen test, an individual has tested positive once by RT-PCR test, one has completed 10 days of home isolation with no fever for the last 3 days at the time of hospital discharge, a healthy individual undertaking interstate domestic travel. Given the situation, the ICMR is recommending bringing back the focus on rapid antigen testing for mass detection. According to ICMR, individuals with symptoms identified negative by rapid antigen testing should be linked with RT-PCR test facility. The ICMR has made it mandatory to enter the information of vaccination status in the testing form for RAT or RT-PCR. This comes in the wake of people testing positive after one or both doses of the vaccine. Continuing to Mansi for more COVID news.
Thank you, Bobby. High Court directs Centre Delhi to set up buffer stock of liquid oxygen in Delhi. The Delhi High Court has directed the centre and Delhi government to set up a buffer stock of 100 metric tons of liquid oxygen in the national capital within the next 3 days to ensure supply to hospital in case of any emergency. The division bench of Justice Vipin Sanghi and Rekha Palli said the Delhi government would need to provide the necessary areas where the tanks could be installed and also create infrastructure for the purpose of distribution of both liquid, medical oxygen and cylinders. Let this aspect be examined and response be replaced before this court on Friday, said the court. The court also asked the city government to consider taking the assistance of IIT Delhi and Delhi Technological University to prepare a blueprint for the supply and distribution infrastructure needed to deliver liquid oxygen and cylinder to hospitals within the territory. Now moving on to Muskan for national news.
Thank you, Mansi. Grieving daughter jumps on father's body during COVID cremation in Rajasthan. In a tragic incident, a 34-year-old woman sustained severe burns in Barmer, Rajasthan, after she jumped on the funeral pyre of her father during his cremation. Her father had died after contracting COVID-19, police said. Damodar Das Sharda, 73, died at a hospital in Rajasthan's Barmer district on Tuesday due to COVID-19, they said. While Sharda was being cremated, the youngest of his three daughters, Chandra Sharda, suddenly jumped on the pyre. The police told news agency Press Trust of India, adding that although she was pulled out of it by people around, she sustained around 70% burn injuries. She was taken to a hospital nearby and later referred to a hospital in Jodhpur for treatment. They told Press Trust of India. The police officer said the youngest daughter has insisted to go for the crematorium for the last rites. Updates.
Thank you, Muskan. Following with another headline of today's national news, External Affairs Minister S. J. Shankar, in an exclusive interview with ANI, advised Indian missions amid COVID that there was a need to filter noise and focus on addressing the medical requirements that will help deal with the virus. He has said that his message to Indian missions is to focus on the very serious situation back home, just like government is focused on addressing the pandemic single-mindedly, and to not get distracted by debate surrounding the surge of COVID-19 cases in the country. I have embassies who are working with shipping lines, airlines with different countries creating hubs. You know how big the oxygen challenge is. So we are getting liquid medical oxygen, we are getting cryogenic tankers, we are getting oxygen tanks, oxygen cylinders. You have to locate them, organize them, and you see support is flying in from other countries. All of that requires coordination, Jay Shankar said. Thank you. And next up, we have Rashi for city news updates.
Thank you, Sunil. Now it's time for city news. Vaccinating journalists top priority. Separate centers to be set up. Yogi Adityanath. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath on Tuesday said journalists and their families would receive special consideration and priority in the COVID-19 vaccination, and separate vaccination centers would be set up for them. Adityanath said the state government recognizes journalists' efforts to cover the pandemic by putting their lives at risk daily. He instructed officials to ensure every journalist gets vaccinated. If required, go to their workplaces and administer free vaccination. All those above 18 years of age will be vaccinated in the families of journalists, the Chief Minister said.
Now the breaking news coming in. Former Union Minister and RLD Chief Ajit Singh dies of COVID-19. He battled with the condition till the very end and bet his last morning today, said his son in a tweet. Now moving on to Shubhankar for more local updates.
Thank you, Aman, for the breaking news. Madhya Pradesh, one arrested for selling empty packets of COVID-19 vaccine in Indore. Madhya Pradesh police has arrested one person for selling empty packets of COVID-19 vaccine in Indore. The accused, identified as Suresh Yadav, was arrested by the Vijayanagar police after he cheated the relatives of COVID patients worth rupees 2 lakh in the name of providing a vaccine. Sub-Inspector Suresh Kumar said the relatives of family had met Suresh on social media where he promised them to provide the vaccine. The accused had promised to the relatives of the patient to give the vaccine worth rupees 2 lakh, but in the name of the vaccine, he handed them over an empty vial wrapped in a packet of bread on March 25th, the sub-inspector said. The police have arrested the accused on fraud charges. Now we will move on to Tanya for more updates.
Thank you, Shubhankar. Fire in Delhi Vikaspuri COVID Hospital. 26 patients rescued. A fire broke out at a private COVID hospital in West Delhi, Vikaspuri, late Tuesday night. But the firefighters and hospital administration were able to rescue all patients in time. Of the 26 patients rescued from the hospital, 70 were those admitted with coronavirus infection, said Atul Garg, Direct Delhi Fire Service. No patient of anyone else was injured in the blaze. All were rescued safely with the help of hospital staff, said Garg. The officer said that the call about the blaze was made around 11 p.m. from the UT nursing home. We were told that it's a COVID hospital with infected patients inside. We sent 8 fire tenders, said Garg. The blaze, which allegedly began in a store located on the first floor of the building, was controlled by 11:45 p.m. The cause of the fire remains unclear. Now Anvita 10 for editorial page.
Thank you, Tanya. Time for the editorial. Simple steps, great experience. The government vaccine centers in Delhi are being widely applauded. Through many reviews and personal experience, I realized that it is surprisingly a well-managed system. Even though there are big waiting queues outside the center, everything gets over within 1 hour for most of the people. Unlike many other government settings, these centers follow proper social distancing protocols. Inside the center, the crowd is properly distributed between 4 rooms, which makes it a lot easy and tolerable. Getting the shot itself is a very pleasant experience, with medical staff trying their best to make one comfortable and talk you out to minimize the pain. After the vaccination is done, you are told to wait in an observation ward for half an hour in case you feel dizzy or nauseous. So overall, a pretty experience. Contrast this with the chaos and confusion that the country is undergoing with respect to the medical facilities, oxygen supplies, ventilators, and overall management of the patients, hospitals, and the process at large. It is clear that with little planning and foresight, things could have been very different. At least this is what I personally experienced during my vaccination process. Even after several early warnings regarding the second wave by the panel of experts, the Indian government did not plan accordingly. So many lives could have been saved if only the warnings were taken seriously, and instead of events, rallies, and celebrations, energies were spent on preparing for the eventuality. We hope that the lessons are learned, though the hard way, and we will be more prepared and focused for the possible net waves. This is least we expect as citizens of this great country. Thank you. Over to Aman.
Thank you, Anvita. Well, if only the government would have thought just like you. Now, on to the op-ed of the day. Election Commission diminished. Any list of winners and losers in the just concluded round of assembly election will have to include in the category of losers a non-combatant, who is in fact the referee, Election Commission of India, a constitutional body that draws its mandate to conduct free and fair elections from Article 324 and has built for itself an enviable reputation for impartiality and a formidable cache of public trust. The EC has appeared all too pliable to political pressures amid a pandemic. In the poll aftermath, it continues to let itself down by approaching the Supreme Court with a special leave petition against the oral and sharply critical observation by the Madras High Court about its superintendence of the election. The HC said, as a lament, that perhaps it should face murder charges by complaining that they are uncalled for, blatantly disparaging, and derogatory, and then suggesting that a line is drawn so that they are not reported by the media. The EC shows unbecoming prickliness and worse. Now that the elections are over, instead of running the court and protesting too much, the EC would do well to take a moment of pause and do an honest reckoning. It has invited serious questions from the beginning of the poll exercise. Its 8-phase schedule for the West Bengal poll seemed overlong, especially amid a pandemic, and the demarcation of phases and geographies appeared to favor the party that rules the center, the BJP. While elections were on, the EC made only desultory attempts to ensure that COVID protocols were followed by candidates and parties. Trust in an institution, once earned, must then be maintained. That takes constant vigilance and work. The EC must know that the impression growing in late that it has let itself go. It should begin by withdrawing its self-indulgent an ill-conceived petition from the Supreme Court. Now, moving moving on to Avni for some world news.
Thank you, Aman, for the op-ed. Moving to international news, Donald Trump launches communications platform. Washington. Former President Donald Trump on Tuesday launched a space on his website where he can post messages that can be shared by others to Twitter and Facebook, site where he remains banned. The move comes a day before a decision from Facebook Incorporation's oversight board on whether to uphold Trump's indefinite suspension from the platform. Trump was barred from a slew of social media platforms following the deadly January 6 storming of the US Capitol by his supporters. Trump's senior advisor Jason Miller said in a tweet that this collection of posts was not the social media platform that Trump has plans to launch. We'll have additional information coming on that front in the very near future, he tweeted. The site, which was first reported by Fox News, is plucked from the desk of Donald J. Trump and contains posts from Trump that can be shared and liked. A source familiar with the matter said it was built by Campaign Nucleus, the digital service company created by Trump's former campaign manager Brad Parscale. Facebook did not immediately respond to a request for comment on how it would treat posts shared from the news space. Trump uh, Twitter, which Trump used heavily and where he had 88 million followers, has said its ban on him is permanent, even if he runs for office again. Alphabet Incorporation's YouTube has said it will restore Trump's channel when it decides the risk of violence has decreased. That's all for the international news. Now moving to the heading for more updates.
Thank you, Avni. Now let's hear it from Joe Biden. US is helping India significantly, says Joe Biden. Joe Biden said by July 4th, the US is going to send 10% of AstraZeneca vaccines to other countries. Washington. The US is helping India significantly in its fights against the second wave of COVID-19 by sending its material and machine parts. So far, 6 air shipments funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, have departed for India from US. These flights include health supplies, oxygen cylinders, N95 masks, and medicines. We are helping India significantly, says Joe Biden. I spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What he needs most is the material and the parts to be able to have his machines that can make the vaccines work. We are sending him that. AstraZeneca vaccine is being used around the world, but has not been approved for the use in the US. There are a lot of components that the Indian government has expressed a vital need for. More flights are on the way, with total existence expected to exceed 100 million US dollars. In terms of oxygen support, which is a big component of what they need right now, we are talking about oxygen cylinders. So the US aid delivered approximately 1,500 cylinders that will remain in India and can repeatedly be refilled at local supply centers. Thank you. And now I hand over to Srishti.
Thank you, Dhairya. Moving on. Myanmar announces ban on satellite TV as security threat. Myanmar's junta-controlled media announced a ban on satellite television receivers on Tuesday, saying outsider broadcasts threaten national security and also threaten to jail anyone caught violating the measure. While mobile internet access largely cut off in a bid to quell the anti-junta protests in February coup, Myanmar has increasingly appeared headed back to the state of isolation that preceded a decade of democratic reforms. Illegal media outlets are broadcasting news that encourages those who commit treason, they said. In the face of widespread opposition, the junta has struggled to impose order since overthrowing elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and ending an unsteady transition to democracy. The junta said it had to seize power because its complaints of fraud in a November election won by Suu Kyi's party were not addressed by an election commission that deemed the vote fair. Now, I'd like Snigdha to go forward with today's cartoon.
Thank you, Srishti. Now it's time for the cartoon of the day. Amid a surge in coronavirus infections in the country, opposition leaders hit out at the Modi government over its handling of the pandemic, alleging its failed policies led to a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in India. Over to Harish for some business news.
Thank you, Snigdha, for presenting the cartoon of the day. Now let's move on to the financial news of the day. RBI says loan moratorium for small borrowers, see who qualifies. The Reserve Bank of India reopened its one-time loan restructuring plan for individuals and small businesses affected by the state-wise lockdowns. Individuals, small business and micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, having exposure of up to 25 crore who did not avail restructuring earlier and where loans were classified as standard as on 31st March 2021 will be eligible for loan restructuring in the second round. Restructuring under the proposed framework may be invoked up to September 30 and shall have to be implemented within 90 days thereafter, Mr. Das said. In a separate development, the RBI governor said the central bank will provide a term liquidity facility of 50,000 crore to ease access of funds for emergency medical services. Thank you. Now let's move on to Arush for the sports bulletin.
Thank you, Harish, for a rather important financial piece. Moving on to the world of sports, call to shift 2020 World Cup to UAE becomes louder. One of the major reasons behind hosting this year's IPL in India was setting an example for hosting the ICC T20 World Cup in October-November this year. However, with the Indian Cricket Board postponing the IPL midway through the season, the chances of hosting the T20 World Cup in India have suddenly become slim. The T20 World Cup will be played between 16 national teams. As the IPL bubble started detecting multiple COVID-19 cases in the last few days, there was much apprehension about maintaining a secure bio bubble for 16 teams later in the year. Reports by the Times of India tell the tournament could well be played in UAE now, with BCCI playing the host. The BCCI had successfully organized last year's IPL at 3 venues, Dubai, Sharjah and Abu Dhabi in UAE. It is learned the board had to pay the Emirates Cricket Board around rupees 90 crore besides the expenses to host the 2-month tournament. And with that, here's Agastya with some updates from the science and tech front.
Thank you for sports update, Arush. Let's hope the 2020 has a lot better luck than the IPL this year. As for the science and tech news, after Ingenuity's successful Mars flight, NASA plans to fly a huge rotorcraft on Saturn's. The historic moment of the first powered flight on another world happened 12 days ago and will be succeeded this by another even more powerful flight on another world. NASA is planning to put a vastly larger rotorcraft, codenamed Dragonfly, on Saturn's largest moon, Titan, 7. Although Dragonfly and Ingenuity are similar in the sense that they are both flying craft on other worlds, their construction couldn't be more different, from the way that they're powered to their sheer mass. Comparing the two is like comparing an eagle to a gnat in terms of scale. Dragonfly will launch from Earth and embark on what will be an 8-year journey to Titan, the second moon in the solar system. According to NASA, Dragonfly will have the same goals as Ingenuity. If Dragonfly succeeds, it will be the second rotorcraft to fly on a celestial body other than Earth. Cameras on the rotorcraft will also stream images during flight, giving people on Earth a view of the Saturn moon. And at nearly half a ton, it will set a record for the heaviest powered controlled craft flown on another planet. The entire mission will cost around $1 billion. And now, over to Ritika for some offbeat news.
Thank you, Agasti, for your update. Time for offbeat news. Youngster volunteer in Lucknow to cremate COVID-19 victim with dignity amid the second wave of coronavirus infection that has deprived people of performing the last rites of their loved ones. A group in Lucknow has volunteered to cremate COVID-19 victims. A group of young men from Rajajipuram in Lucknow have come forward to cremate any such COVID victim with dignity. They also cremate COVID victims who have no family, according to sources. Member of the group released their name and contact number and appealed to COVID-affected family to contact them. In a message, these corona warriors also stated that they will perform the last rites of the victim on their own expense. Thank you. Now over to you, Simran.
Thank you, Ritika. Videos show locked ICU, dead bodies within, and the staff hiding. In viral videos from 5 days ago, families of COVID victims enter a Gurgaon hospital to find no doctor or staff and come up against locked ICUs. Then, in a horrifying moment, they enter an ICU to find body after body. In the chilling clip, the camera focuses on patients lying still in ICU beds and a person saying in the background, dead, dead. 6 COVID patients died on Friday night at the Kirti Hospital in Gurgaon, the day the videos were taken, reportedly due to oxygen shortage. 3 of them were in the ICU. The videos show relatives running around wards, finding not a doctor or staff member, just empty desks. Neither the doctor is here nor the chemist. No one at the reception. There is not even a guard, says a voice. The relatives claim doctors and staff abandoned ICU patients and fled after the hospital ran out of oxygen. They angrily confronted the police. Coming up next is Trisha with the entertainment beat.
Thank you, Simran. Moving on to entertainment update. Bollywood actors who will debut in the digital space in 2021, Shahid Kapoor, Madhuri Dixit, Ajay Devgan, and Sonakshi Sinha. Streaming platforms opened up a plethora of opportunities for actors during 2020, and several Bollywood celebrities have swiftly migrated from the big screens to OTT. From Kajol enthralling the audience with a performance in Tribhanga to Abhishek Bachchan entertaining fans with The Big Bull, Bollywood actors explore multiple streaming platforms ever since the country went under lockdown last year. This year too, some interesting OTT debuts are being planned. Ajay Devgan in Rudra will debut in an action-packed avatar in the digital space. Rudra, The Edge of Darkness, is said to be a remake of British series Luther. Madhuri Dixit in Finding Anamika. Madhuri will focus onto streaming platforms with a seemingly promising web series while she plays the lead. The story is based on a global star, wife, and mom who suddenly goes missing without a trace. And as the police and loved ones search for Anamika's facade stripped away, revealing hidden truths and painful lies of a life as an iconic actress. Shahid Kapoor is also giving up to entertain on OTT with a quirky drama series directed by Raj and DK. And Sonakshi Sinha is set for a smashing debut on OTT as she plays the lead in the tentatively titled Fallen. Thank you. Moving to Harish for the opening bell.
Now let's move us towards the opening bell, following with the updates of prices in petrol and diesel. Indian indices opened on a positive note on May 6 with Nifty above 14,600. Sensex was up 172 points at 48,850 and the Nifty was up 54 points. About 1,130 shares have advanced, 271 shares declined, and 74 shares are unchanged. Petrol and diesel prices hiked for the third consecutive day. Petrol and diesel prices across metro cities was hiked for the third consecutive day on May 6. In the national capital Delhi, petrol prices were hiked by 25 paise and diesel prices by 30 paise. People in New Delhi will now shell out 90.99 rupees per liter for petrol and 81.42 per liter on diesel. In Mumbai, the prices increased to 97.34 per liter and 88.49 per liter for petrol and diesel respectively.
Thank you, Harish. And thank you to our listeners. We'll meet you tomorrow at the same time, same place. Till then, stay safe. Take care. Thank you.
All right, viewers, we are done up with the day. I request you to please stay connected with us. Stay insured. Thank you. Thanks a lot.